most significant, absolutely relevant, powerful, empowering opportunity for change is gathering in Washington, D.C. for the 47th Annual Congressional Black Caucus Legislative Weekend. This is a significant moment, and our message is significant, and still I rise. I'm very happy, as chair of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, to welcome you and to pointedly emphasize the relevance of this time. Before I came here this morning, I interacted with educators, 400 of them, that the Congressional Black Caucus shares its knowledge and gives them an opportunity to collaborate around crucial issues of educating our children. Just a few minutes ago, I left the Hill in a meeting of numbers and numbers, led by one of our members of Congress, the Congressional Black Caucus, Alma Adams, of historically black colleges. Presidents gathered not to sit, but to engage and listen and develop a real black college initiative with the Congressional Black Caucus so that we can move forward on educating our young people. So our message is today, if I might, for a moment, explain the significance of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation. We are a partner, and through the Congressional Black Caucus, the foundation was born. 47 years of bringing to the nation and members and individuals from around the world provocative thought or provocative action. What is our purpose? It is beyond any other purpose to develop the leadership of the 21st century. That is, the young people far and wide, some right now impacted by Hurricane Harvey and Irma, some schools suffering the loss of buildings and faculty members who have lost their possessions. Now as Hurricane Maria bombards the Caribbean, our friends, of whom the Congressional Black Caucus and Foundation will have to work together. But we draw these young people for scholarships, fellowships, and internships to give them the crux of leadership. Let it never be ignored that our main purpose, this wonderful weekend of fundraising and sessions and networking, is all about the young people, to move them into the 21st century. There are no millennials. We never stop. Whatever generation of young people there is, we will train them as leaders. So as I close, as my colleagues come forward, as the two dynamic chairs are acknowledged of this annual session, Congresswoman Robin Kelly of Chicago and Congressman Marc Veasey, give them applause, of Texas. Give them a very large applause. They have worked enormously. I want to thank them and owe them a great debt of gratitude. And then, of course, to our President and CEO, Shuanise Washington, you will hear, give her an applause. And, of course, our CBC Chair, Cedric Richmond, who is the crucial part of our partnership. Give him and the CBC an applause. So let me close on these following points. Hurricane Harvey and Irma, Maria, will have as their guard at the door members of the Congressional Black Caucus for restoration, for housing, for rebuilding, which are crucial. As an example, 30,000 homes are underwater in Texas, 119,000 are severely damaged. 3,000 people in Port Arthur are unhoused, and we have a job to do. But we will also fight the devastation of criminal justice issues, education issues, and the Congressional Black Caucus, as it trains these young people, we will put them in places around the nation to be the leaders of today and tomorrow. That is our challenge, that is our commitment to you, and I would hope that you would, through this weekend, become empowered to fight against the issues and the positions of the Attorney General of the United States, who does not recognize that we have arrived. Still we rise, and our equality will not be denied. And how do I know that? Because the Congressional Black Caucus and the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation will partnership together and stand in the gap. Thank you all so very much. It is my privilege to introduce there she is, the red dress. I didn't see her. I didn't see her. But I did say it was my privilege, did I not? To introduce the President and CEO of the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation, and that is Shuanise Washington. What a pleasure. Thank you so very much. I also have the staff raise their hands. I just want to thank you as well. Thank you all so very much.
Everyone.
Good morning.
And thank you, Chairwoman Jackson-Lee, for that warm introduction. And welcome to each and every one of you to the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's 47th Annual Legislative Conference. Glad to be here? Okay. I share Congresswoman Jackson-Lee's sentiments and want to express CBCF's deep concern for those who have been most affected by the recent hurricanes. We are saddened by those who have lost their lives and those who are still working to rebuild. And as the CBCF continues to lead and serve in the African American community, on Saturday during the prayer breakfast as well as Saturday evening during our Phoenix Awards dinner, all donations collected during those two events will be sent to CBC member impacted by the hurricanes in the United States and the Caribbean. It is my pleasure to also acknowledge our leadership, Congresswoman Shelia Jackson-Lee, from whom you've heard, the chair of the CBC, Congressman Cedric of Richmond, who you'll be hearing from shortly, and also Congressman Marc Veasey of Texas and Congresswoman Robin Kelly of Chicago, our two distinguished co-chairs this year. Each of them have been actively involved in directing the vision and planning for this year's conference. And I'd also like to thank the other 45 members of the Congressional Black Caucus for their participation and support during the preparation for this year's ALC. This year's conference theme, And Still I Rise, reflects the legacy of resilience that emphasizes the collective strength of the Black community to rise above continued racial, social, and political inequalities while simultaneously creating a pathway forward from protests to substantive changes in policy. We pay homage to those in our local and global communities who have lost their lives to violence in the struggle for freedom and equality. Our work and efforts are in remembrance of them, and still we rise. We celebrate and are grateful for those who have paved the way and afforded us opportunities generations before us didn't have, allowing us progress in life and stand before you today, and still we rise. Each year, the ALC brings together nearly 10,000 attendees representing community stakeholders, business sector, emerging leaders, elected officials, dignitaries, mainstream and minority media, students, and everyday Americans to participate in solution-centered sessions on issues that impact African Americans and the global Black community. Our 47th annual legislative conference comes at a pivotal time for us all. This year, more than any other year, we will have critical discussions on a myriad of social, economic, and policy issues, all happening simultaneously and all real and relevant to African Americans and the global Black community. Over the next 5 days, policymakers, community activists, and engaged citizens will collaborate and devise solutions to some of the toughest obstacles we face. This year, we build upon some of our signature events to include the CBC Spouses Celebration of Leadership, honoring Spike Lee, Yolanda Adams, and Simone Caldwell, We will have two dynamic segments in addition to a dynamic panel at our National Town Hall on tomorrow morning. 2 segments featuring Representative John Lewis as well as Representative Maxine Waters. And then on Saturday, our prayer breakfast will feature Bishop Charles E. Blake and Pastor Shirley Caesar. And we'll close out Saturday evening with the dinner with guest speaker Lieutenant General retired Honorary and Speaker Michael Eric Geisen. ALC provides numerous opportunities for networking, substantive discussions, and strategizing around solutions. I hope you will share with your audiences our interest in identifying strategies to move the Black community forward, as well as our delight in celebrating our successes and uplifting our sources of inspiration. Thank you all for joining us this morning, and it is now my pleasure to introduce my friend and the chairman of the Congressional Black Caucus. Please join me in welcoming Congressman Cedric Richmond.
Maxine Waters.
First, let me thank you all for being here this morning, and to also thank Shuanise and for her outstanding work at the foundation, and to thank Congresswoman Shelia Jackson-Lee for her leadership at the foundation also. And I will tell you, as a person who went through Hurricanes Katrina and Rita, and the devastation and the despair and the struggle that went on, for Shelia to go through what she's going through at home and still be able to do this shows the fortitude of Shelia Jackson-Lee. And anyone who knows her story knows how strong of a woman she is. Let me also thank Representatives Robert Kelly and Marc Veasey for their outstanding leadership in chairing this year's conference. Let me just start by saying something that you know and I know. That is, this year, more than ever, it's important for us to come together and talk about what we want our future to be, how we get there, and how we fight the destructive things that are going on right now. And you'll know in recent months, and the truth is in recent days, we've seen policy decisions made by this administration that have proven to be very detrimental to the African American community. We're fighting these policies as much as we can in Washington, and Shuanise reminded us that we have 49 members. We represent 78 million Americans around this country, 49 members. So we have the wherewithal to do it, but we can't do it alone. But this environment that we're operating in, this new environment, requires us to double down on our engagement, our civic engagement, our community engagement, and making sure that whether it's our professional groups or our churches, that there's no daylight in between us. Because we have to be able to reach and talk to and galvanize at a moment's notice to make sure that we keep pushing our agenda forward. So this year, you'll see, like every year, we have a number of very important policy panels and discussions where we will talk about how to go out in the community and make a difference, how to impact businesses, how to impact education, and all of those things. And we'll also have a bunch of impactful receptions where members will get a chance to mingle with their constituents and networking going on all at one time. But ultimately, I want people to take away from this 4-day conference, to leave this 4-day conference with a passion and a purpose to make this country a more perfect union. I also want them to walk away from this conference with the courage to lead, the courage to stand, the courage to speak out about the assault on voting rights, civil rights, health care, and the other issues that we're facing at the highest levels of government. All of the issues I just mentioned disproportionately impact the African American community. A lot of people are saying they want to make this country great again. The problem is they fail to understand what made this country great in the first place. And what made this country great in the first place, besides the free labor of slaves, was the blood, sweat, and tears of people who came before us to make sure that we could get the right to vote. So that someone like me could go to great schools or wherever I wanted to go and dream that I could do whatever I wanted to do. And it was that group that came before us that sacrificed for many of them their futures, their careers, their easy lifestyle, their middle class lifestyle, so that Barack Obama could become the 44th president. So when you start talking about a more perfect union and making this country great, we've been there, done that. And we're going to continue to make this country great. And that's why the award that I get to pick and choose at the Phoenix Awards this year, I'm going to give my award to Ruby Bridges. Not only is she a hometown hero in New Orleans, but as a 6-year-old, walking by mobs of people, throwing fruit and other things at her so that she would not integrate at school. I will just close with this. Those people throwing fruit and other things at her, and those people by their side allowing it to happen. Just like people marching through the night with torches and people just happen to be walking with them. There are no good people who flock with those who perpetuate hate, white supremacy, and other things. And we need to make sure that we make that very clear, because it's not who you stand with during times of comfort and convenience, and we know that. But it's where you stand when you're uncomfortable, and whether you will stand and watch wrong take place, or whether you will stand up and address it. So that's what I hope comes out of this weekend, is the renewed energy, the renewed courage to stand up against injustice wherever we find it. With that, I will bring up two of our newer members, but two of our stronger members. Marc Veasey from Fort Worth, Texas, and Robin Kelly from Chicago, Illinois. Come on up.
Cool. Yeah, that's it. That's your guy. Yeah, that's Dallas. This is your guy. You need to talk to him. All right.
Good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning.
Congressman Richmond, thank you very much. It really has been an honor and a pleasure to work with Congressman Richmond from the great state of Louisiana. His leadership, his vision, his courage, and definitely someone that really just has the passion to really make this year's event very great. And like your Phoenix Award honoree, the CBCF aims to empower the next generation of Black leadership. And we saw some of that leadership on display this weekend in St. Louis, where peaceful protesters were exercising their right to freely assemble and make it clear that bad actors need to be held accountable within our judicial system. Another constitutional right that we cannot forget, and Cedric and Congressman Richmond talked about takeaways. I hope that people take away the fact that we can never forget how important it is to exercise our right to vote. That is why I recently introduced House Resolution 501, which designates September as National Voting Rights Month. This is a resolution that encourages all Americans to vote. And it goes a step further. It encourages our public schools and universities to develop a curriculum on the importance of voting, and inspires every American to exercise the right to vote. Most importantly, it urges Congress to vote on legislation that protects voting rights again for all Americans. And that's important because we have a president that continues to dismantle voting rights in our nation through his Presidential Commission on Voting on Election Integrity. And we must encourage and protect the sacred right to vote. It is clear from the streets of the ballot boxes that the voices in the Black community that we must be heard. We continue to shape the future of this country, and we